mentioned to you already that all of your quizzes are open book, and oftentimes I give you time in class to complete those. You don't. It's something that you have to study for. It's just something that you have to pay attention to. Does that make sense? To know what the answers are. So we will really fly through what we've already done because we spent a couple of days on this already. So the place of John in the New Testament, obviously it's a gospel. We talked about the gospel is the good news, and Paul tells us what the gospel is, that Christ died for our sins, that he was buried, that he was raised on the third day in accordance with the scriptures. Did we talk about what he means by the word scriptures? What we did talk about that? Okay, so that's the Old Testament scriptures that prophesy of the Messiah. And then it's one of the longest books of the New Testament, one of the best loved books in the New Testament. And it's different from the other Gospels. It is largely evangelistic. These were written that you might believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of God, and that by believing you might have life in his name. It's largely spiritual, and the others are largely historical. It differs in the portrait of Christ. And, prominent words are different. The audience is different. And then what the kind of the passages that are most important are different. And it's different in its basic characteristics as well. So I talked to you about this word synoptic, meaning to see alike or to see together. And so the synoptic gospels are Matthew, Mark, and Luke, which share a lot of the same material. They read very similarly. They're writing history. They're writing the story. History is literally his story, right? They're writing the story of Christ's life on earth. John is largely spiritual. He is wanting people to know who Christ is so they can put their faith in him. That is his objective. So remember that term, synoptic gospels. So John is answering the questions that the synoptics ask. Who is this great king in Matthew? It's Christ. Who is the great servant of Mark? It is Christ. Who is the great man in Luke? It is Christ. John emphasizes evangelism, telling people about Christ so they may come to know him too. He only records 7 miracles, so it's important for us to pay attention to those miracles because he was very intentional in the few miracles that he chose. And then I talked to you about Judea rather than Galilee. Remember, Judea is in the south where Jerusalem is. I will get a map for you so you can see this. And Galilee was in the north, the Sea of Galilee. The characteristics of John emphasizes Jesus' own words concerning himself. This next statement, I think, is pivotal to the Gospel of John. John is not trying to prove Christ's deity so much as he's letting Jesus Christ prove his own deity. I told you that my freshman religion professor said that Jesus never claimed to be Messiah. He never claimed to be God. Everybody claimed to be God. We will see this over and over and over again, especially when he gives an I am statement. Because that word, I am, is actually Yahweh. So the Jews knew it, right? How people today can look at the New Testament. The Jews knew it. They tried to kill him several times. What were they wanting to kill him for? Blasphemy. And at one point they say, he says, so I've done a lot of good works. For which one do you want to stone you? And I would have loved to have seen their faces. No, we're not wanting to stone you for that. We're wanting to stone you because you, a mere man, claim to be God. So they got it. They understood. At one point, they're throwing dust in the air and tearing their clothes and ay-yi-ying, and they get really upset. So over and over again, we're going to see that Jesus claimed to be God. And we'll talk about those. So this is an application of this gospel. So the basic question of the book of John is, who is Jesus Christ? Or in my words, who is this guy? I think we need to make it even personal. I mean, we can talk about it's an academic exercise and maybe a spiritual one too, to talk about who is Christ. But I think the question John wants you to ask, the question Jesus wants you to ask, is who is Jesus? Who do I say? And there's no more important question. No other question you could ever ask is more important than that. Because all of eternity turns on who do I say Jesus is? And so one of the things we're wanting to get out of these lessons is in this study of Christ is to figure out who Jesus is to us. And as he becomes more real, as we walk more closely with him, everything changes. You'll hear more of my testimony as we go through the next 3 years. But if you could see, and I think I'm going to show you some picture of 9th grade. I was rebellious, angry. I was just, and I knew Jesus. When I grew up in a Christian home, I knew the gospel. I could have preached the gospel. But Jesus came in one night and just rocked my world. And it is about a personal relationship. So first of all, you need to ask, who is this? And if you determine that he is the King of the universe, the Son of God, I don't know how you know that and realize that. Now, I did for a long time, so I do know how that happens. But I think it's so, I'm hoping that he will become more real to us, that we will grow closer to him as we walk through John's Gospel. So I just want to give you just kind of this final challenge for this year. Jesus is fundamentally different than every other historical figure that's ever, in a lot of different ways, right? Anybody ever been to Mount Vernon? Outside of DC? What's there? George Washington's house. What else is there?
His own estate.
What?
His own estate.
Yeah, his estate. What? Who is on his estate? You can visit George Washington's grave. Martha's there too. All the great people in history have a grave with a body. I don't know what Buddha is. They all have a grave. Spoiler alert, we really don't know where Jesus' grave is. Some people think that the one that's the most popular choice is actually not, doesn't match up. But even if we could find his grave, and Jesus is the only one that's true. We can learn lots of facts. I was an American history teacher for a while, and I was a world history teacher. We can learn a lot of facts about a lot of people, but the difference between them and Jesus is that Jesus is still alive, and he is alive forever. He is a real person, and he is really God at the same time. So, although we will be talking about facts as we walk through this curriculum, I don't want you to just learn about Jesus. I want you to know Jesus. I want you to walk with Jesus. I want you to know his heart. I want you to know his compassion. I want you to want to be more and more like him and to grow in your love. And what I'm about to say is a very strong statement. And I've had people tell me, that's not true. But the truth is, this is what I feel in my bones. In about 3 years, everyone in this room, if you're still in Christ, is going to don a cap and get a document that says as you're walking across that stage to get that diploma, if you are not I failed. And that is how serious. I've taught social studies. I've taught PE. I love teaching. I love teaching anything. But none of it is eternal. None of it has any import on what happens after you. Except this. So my hope is, my plea is, take this seriously. Get to know Jesus. Guarantee you. Let's pray and then we'll do this. Father, thank you that you have not left us without evidence, without truth, without a way to know you, and to know a way of salvation. Father, I pray for every person in this room, that each of them would choose to walk closely to you, and that you would come in and love and guide and protect them, just as you promised. In Jesus' name. Okay, so here is the quiz. You can just hang on to these when we're done because we're going to do this together. I'm going to stop the video and then start it up again.